Then suddenly it was as though she realised that something or somebody was looking at her, and with that she just took a couple of leaps and bounds and she disappeared behind the mound.
Could it have been a dog?
Oh, definitely not, no. I've been a dog owner for several years, and black Labradors of that. I've had 3 or 4 black Labradors, but this was definitely a large black cat, definitely.
Even police helicopters have been called out in the past. Nottinghamshire police took to the air looking for a big cat near Newark, and 18 months ago Staffordshire police launched an aerial hunt after a man reported a lion walking in woods near Tamworth.
He went out of the wood and phoned the police, and the police got the helicopter out and they got the army out and they were searching for a lost lion. It turned out it was my other dog, Samson.
Mistakes then can be made, but are there any local suspects in the frame? Lynx disappeared from our forests in prehistoric times, and another fearsome predator, the wolf, was wiped out in the middle of the 18th century. But what about now? Our native carnivores, foxes, badgers, birds of prey like the buzzard are relatively common, and we still have a native feline, the Scottish wild cat. But could a much larger cat-like species live alongside them? How much meat does an animal like this eat?
About £4 a day. About £4 a day.
So could they be living in the countryside here?
That's 2 rabbits. That's 2 decent-sized rabbits. A pheasant, this sort of thing.
And lots of people keep telling us that they often see them near railway lines.
Yes, we've noticed that as well. Imagine the cycle of these animals. A female living wild would probably have a good, quite a good few acres, for territory. She'd be visited by a male, hopefully, if there's one in the area when she came to season. When the cubs mature, probably about 18 months, 2 years old, they disperse. And railway lines, particularly disused railway lines, are an absolute perfect place to move around the countryside unnoticed.
There's only one thing on Barda's mind at the moment, and that is to get more meat. I have to stand at least 2 feet away from the fence here. She can get her paws out, and her claws are as sharp as daggers, and she can be as quick as a rattlesnake. But whatever she is, she's a magnificent beast. It's not surprising that people wanted to own such beautiful animals. In the 60s and 70s, they were viewed as fashion accessories. You could even buy them in Harrods. In the Midlands, this house in Cradley Heath became celebrated as the home of Lado, who made the news when he attacked a visitor who'd unwisely decided to climb over his gate. As Lado got larger, his owner, Lewis Foley, was in constant dispute with the authorities, as his collection grew to include 8 lions and tigers. But he wasn't the only person keeping exotic creatures in the Black Country.
That was left on my doorstep by a very wealthy friend, and he just says look after them, and which he knows they will be looked after anyway. And that's it. I'm trying to get some advice to what they are. I'm really baffled with these.
In 1976, the government introduced the Dangerous Wild Animals Act, bowing to pressure after a child had been bitten by a leopard in a town centre. It now became an offence to own certain animals without an expensive licence and approved caging. Animal owners had to make a choice. They could conform to the new regulations or donate their animals to zoos if any would take them. Failing this, they could have their animals put down. It's accepted that many people chose to release their animals into the wild. Quentin Rose is a professional animal tracker and consultant working with West Mercia and other police forces to alert them to what he sees as a growing population of potentially dangerous animals. He believes there could be over 100 big cats living wild in the UK. He's identified areas of reliable sightings: 32 for puma, 27 for panthers, 10 for lynx and 6 for jungle cat. His particular interest is the area between Redditch and Worcester.
There's certainly 70 sightings which are definite sightings, and about 30 which I'm not too sure about.
And some of them very close to police headquarters?
Yes. Well, in fact, they are coming into the towns in the early hours of the morning. They're being seen by police officers, firemen, milkmen, people like that who are around about that time.
Quentin took me to a field in Worcestershire where a farmer had recently caught him out to look at a dead lamb.
I came out to do a post-mortem on the sheep the following morning and confirmed it had a big cat attack. It was a single crushing bite to the throat, claw lacerations on the body, and a single hole just punched right through the ribs where the cat had hit the sheep. I identified the back left footprint of a leopard at the site of the kill and found another front right footprint of the leopard in the wood. I had a search around the other woods and couldn't find any other signs and went back home. As soon as I arrived home, the farmer was on the phone to say that the second lamb had just disappeared. I came out and tried to find the other lamb, and as I was walking through the wood, I heard something crashing off through the woods and then the cough of a leopard. It's a sound I've heard hundreds of times working in zoos, and it cut through the woods like a knife. It was about 200-300 yards away, and it was just warning me that it was there, it had food, and not to go any closer.
With so many sheep about, attacks on cattle would seem unlikely. Yet in 1995 it seems to have happened to a cow at Pembridge in Herefordshire, the biggest animal in Britain to have been attacked so far.
I'm talking about cuts that are half-inch deep, like as if you had a standing knife cutting a lorry tyre. Not just your normal they're barbed wire or going against a stick or a gate. She'd got marks raked down like that, 1.25 inches across, 18 inches long, right down there, across her back and down here.
So what's been the effect on you, Norman?
I had big cat fever. It's a thing, as people say, it's one of the things that does frighten you and jerks you into a situation. I saw this blood, I smelt the blood. I'll never forget the state of the cow, what had happened to this animal, unexplained. I was absolutely frightened for myself and my family because we calve cows in these fields. We think an animal is stalking the herd.
Local vet John Horlock was called in to examine and treat the cow. He visited the scene of the crime, and several eyewitnesses told him they'd seen a big cat in the area that morning.
We found what we thought were cat paw prints in some of the cow pats, which were subsequently identified by the assistant warden at Bewdley Safari Park as cat prints. They were about 4 inches across. I don't know of any dogs with feet that big, and I certainly don't know of any dogs which would have made that sort of wound on a cow. When we went and walked into the herd to have a look at the rest of them, whilst cows are mainly curious, these were much more aggressive. They did gather round much closer than I would have expected and were much more upset. The milk yield of the herd dropped 10% that night.
Any reports in recent months of sightings of such an animal?
I haven't heard of any recently. We did get one last winter where somebody found a dead sheep up a tree. Now, having spoken again to Bewdley, they say that only leopards leave their prey up trees, and that again is consistent. It was too high up a tree to be anything else.
Our investigations took me north to Shropshire. In the area west of Ludlow, there have been reports of big cat sightings for some years. And in November last year, local farmer Andrew Morgan returned home after a night out to be told that the farm dogs had been restless and that his terrier Rusty was missing.
So I just got the torch out and went round the fields, and I came back round the house and I shone the torch round the field. I saw the sheep that were in the field, they were down the bottom, all huddled together, and shone the torch on round, and Rusty here was crouched on the ground, and this rather large cat was sat on its back legs. They seemed to be playing with one another at the time, but as soon as I put the torch on him, he just ran straight, and before he jumped over the gate, he just sat back down and watched me again.
It's a wonderful area. Why do you think it's so suited to an animal like a panther or whatever?
It's sort of he's got no predator in this area, so not only that, he's got plenty of game animals around. There's pheasants, there's deer, there's